What's the difference between a company that builds one factory and a company that gets paid every time anyone anywhere builds one? That's a question Aduro Clean Tech just answered. And today I want to break down exactly what they announced and why the licensing model they're building is one of the most shareholder-friendly paths an early-stage tech company can take, and why two of the most important sentences in this press release were buried inside a CEO quote that most people scrolled right past. So I've held a position in Aduro since it IPO'd, and I want everybody to stop for a second and take in how many things are happening all at once right now. We know the next generation plant just hit operating campaigns, and all of a sudden everything is moving fast. The company has a lot of confidence right now, and I would give a lot to be a fly on the wall. Today's news release is a signed MOU with a leading global engineering, procurement, and construction company, a GEPC, to develop a commercial licensing package for Aduro's Hydrochemolytic Technology. Now, yesterday, Aduro was a company with proven technology working toward a first-of-a-kind industrial plant. Today, they are a company working towards a first-of-a-kind industrial plant and the blueprint to scale that technology everywhere. The difference between being the best burger in town and being the best burger in every town. So that's what I want to talk about today, because the way Aduro is choosing to scale is not just a business strategy, it directly affects you as an investor. So before I get into the scaling model, I need to pause on something that would have been headline news on its own any other week. But buried inside CEO Ofer Vikas's quote were two statements that the market's probably going to miss. First, and this is directly, it said the NGP pilot plant has recently transitioned to operating campaigns. So that's not testing, that's not commissioning, that's a machine running, real process data being generated right now. The technology isn't being proven in theory anymore, it's being proven in practice in real time. And the second, site selection for the FOAK industrial plant has been finalized. The first-of-a-kind industrial plant at Chemelot Industrial Park in the Netherlands has a confirmed location. One of the biggest uncertainties on the commercialization timeline, quietly resolved inside a press release about something else. So the machine is on, the address is set, and now a world-class engineering partner just agreed to turn this into a global system. Keep both of those in mind as I walk you through what this licensing model actually means. Let's say you have a technology that works. You've proven it. You need to go from one plant to many plants. Path one is you build everything yourself. You need capital for each one, land, equipment, construction, commissioning. Where does that capital come from? At this stage, it's usually the markets. That means raises, and raises at early stage valuations mean dilution. And every time a company goes back to the market to fund the next plant, your slice of the pie gets smaller. And the timeline stretches out because each plant is a multi-year project that the company has managed. They have to manage directly. Shareholders wait and wait and wait. Path two, the licensing model, flips that entirely. Aduro develops a blueprint, the technical package, the know-how, and other companies pay to use it. They bring their own capital, they take on the construction risk, they manage their own timelines. Aduro collects licensing fees and royalties as the technology gets deployed without having to fund every plant off its own balance sheet. That's not just a smarter business model, that's a model that is designed to be easier on shareholders. So I want to give you an analogy that I think captures this perfectly. Most people know Rolls-Royce as a car, but Rolls-Royce's jet engine division is one of the most studied business models in the world and has nothing to do with cars. Airlines don't buy Rolls-Royce engines, they license the use of them. Rolls-Royce charges per hour of flight, and they call it power by the hour. The airline gets world-class propulsion. Rolls-Royce gets paid every time those engines run, and across thousands of aircraft on every continent without having to own a single plane. The value isn't in the metal. The value is the knowledge of how to make the thing work. And that knowledge scales without limit. This is exactly the model Aduro is building toward with this MOU. This is not we will build every plant, but we will own the knowledge of how to make every plant run, and the world will pay to access it. So let the knowledge do the work so the balance sheet doesn't have to. Now, and I want to be clear about this, Aduro isn't Rolls-Royce. This is an early stage clean technology company, and there is real risk. The MOU is non-binding. There's meaningful work ahead of us before any of this becomes revenue, but the architecture of what they're designing is the same. Let the knowledge do the work so the balance sheet doesn't have to. So, and here's why the timing of building this model matters as much as the model itself. The demand for what Aduro produces isn't going away. It's accelerating. The EU's recycled content mandates are already in motion. Extended producer responsibility frameworks are tightening across North America and beyond. Brand owners are under real pressure to demonstrate genuine recycled content in their products, not greenwashing, actual molecular recycling. The regulatory environment is moving in one direction. And on the supply side, the less predictable global oil supply becomes the more attractive the economics of recycled feedstock look as an alternative. The energy market volatility we're living through right now is not a temporary condition. It is structurally repricing the value of technologies that reduce dependence on primary extraction. So those tailwinds are stacking up. The licensing model is how Aduro gets into every market those tailwinds are blowing through, without needing a balance sheet large enough to build all of them simultaneously. The NGP is what makes the blueprint credible. The operating campaigns running right now are generating the data. The engineering packages get built on. You can't license something you can't prove. The NGP is the proof. The FOAK at Chemelot is the first full-size build from that proof. And the MOU with the global EPC firm is the beginning of this packaging all of that into something repeatable, something that doesn't require Aduro to fund every plant off its own balance sheet. So the pieces are not just aligned, they're sequenced correctly, and the sequence is deliberate. So what I'm watching for from here are three things. First, the identity of the GEPC partner getting disclosed. I always want to hear who the partners are. They're unnamed right now, which is normal at an MOU stage, but when that name comes out, it will give the market a much clearer sense of the caliber of the counterparty Aduro is working with. Second is the first formal scope of the work being signed under the MOU framework. That's when the non-binding agreements becomes a binding work program. This is the next real milestone. Third, any early data releases from the NGP operating campaigns. The engineering basis for the entire license packaging flows from that data. The sooner it's available, the sooner the work under the MOU accelerates. Any one of those is a potential catalyst. All three together would be significant. The most important thing beyond whether technology works is whether a company is being run in a way that respects the people holding shares, and a licensing model designed and executed well is one of the most shareholder-friendly paths a technology company can take. Faster potential revenue, less dependence on dilutive raises to fund physical expansion, and a business that scales with knowledge rather than with capital. So that direction, choosing to build a licensing model with a world-class engineering partner on the back of a running pilot plant tells me something about how this team thinks about building long-term value. So as a shareholder, that matters to me. I'm going to link the press release below. As always, I am a shareholder in Aduro. This is not financial advice. Do your own research, make your own decisions. And if you've been watching this company, this is definitely a week worth watching.